Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Raymond Peterson.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Alan Singer.
Historian educator Dr. Alan Singer, regular on Media Watch with these three longtime journalists. And we're doing this session the Wednesday before our normal Monday airing. Today's date is April 10th. So a lot of stuff going on. But one of the things, Donald Trump just came out with an abortion statement to quote, say where he stands on abortion. And I think CNN and a whole bunch of people said, well, this is the guy who was pro-choice and then he's pro-life and he's been where does he really stand? And my question is, yeah, where does he really stand? But he got a lot of blowback from Lindsey Graham, his usual sycophantic sidekick or whatever, and other blowbacks from other conservatives. But his stance echoes the Supreme Court's ruling when they dismantled Roe v. Wade that it should be with the states. And immediately after that, what did the state of Arizona do, Raymond? Or did they do it before he came out with his statement?
They did it before he came out with a statement. He basically Arizona, the Arizona Supreme Court there's a law on their books stating that it is illegal to have an abortion except if the woman's life is in danger. That law dates back to 1864, I believe. So it was put aside when Roe versus Wade was passed. But now that Roe v. Wade is not there and the law is still on the books, they've decided that they're going back to 1864. That's what they did.
That was 48 years before Arizona became a state.
48 years.
And we're talking about, this is the era of the American Civil War. And what we're looking at is right-wing judges trying to not just turn the clock back, but like to smash the clock and bring us back to an earlier era.
Yeah.
You know, Americans often complain that countries like Iran want to institute Sharia law, religious law. That's what's happening in the United States right now. There's an effort to establish Sharia law, Christian Sharia law, especially in issues like abortion. But if they could strip away the right of women to choose, well, they could strip away the right of anybody to anything.
Absolutely. But Sharia law is based on a religion, a real religion. What we're doing is based on a bunch of fanatics.
No. Alan is right, Raymond. They are pushing a hard religious.
Yeah, but tell me these people are religious. They don't do anything that resembles any religion I'm aware of.
Wait. You don't know all organized religion.
I don't know all organized religion. I'm not sure that there is any religion that says it's okay to stand on a street corner and rail racial epithets at or whatever, disparaging anybody in any way. I've never heard of that. I used to go to church when my mother drugged me when I was a kid, and I stopped going because of hypocrisy. And that's what I'm seeing now tenfold. All of these, look, my God, Trump is selling Bibles on the internet and on the TV.
Let's not get distracted by Bible salesmen, whoever they are. Let's get
really.
Because the other law that worries me is in 1873, there was a New York crusader against immorality named Arthur Comstock. And the federal government actually passed a law making it illegal to mail obscene material, and medical supplies that could be used to promote abortion were deemed to be obscene. And we're going back. It is possible the courts could reinstate the 1873 Comstock Law to make it illegal to mail medical abortion material in the United States.
Let me ask you something, Alan. Is that not the issue that's sitting before this current Supreme Court that they're now weighing, Mifepristone, close pronunciation of the drug that a whole lot of women in this country, and I believe over 50%, maybe 56%, maybe more than that, of the abortions that are done in this country now are done via this particular mail order drug that in some states you can't get, but other doctors from other states and other providers can mail it to women in the states where they won't let them purchase it. So if the argument that the anti-abortion people are using is to bring back the Comstock Law. This is what they're saying to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of arguments saying, no, that's not what the American people want. But if there's a federal law on the books, and this Supreme Court's always talking about whatever is good for church, never mind separation of church and state, their ruling always seems to be pro-business and pro-church. This particular Supreme Court, with its 6-3 makeup, my guess is they could easily rule for this church Comstock obscene, immoral law, the Comstock Law, and say, yeah, you can't mail this drug. And what's that going to do to women in this country?
And what bothers me, Eric, is that a lot of these state Supreme Courts are taking advantage of archaic ancient law to get away with their right-wing program. I mean, we have the 1849 abortion law in Wisconsin. We got the 1864 abortion law, which is now being supported in Arizona. And you know, the Comstock Law dates to what, Alan?
1873.
And so we're leaning on, you know, not even 20th century law, 19th century law to somehow be appropriate in the 21st century. You know, the nation evolves, you know, the world evolves, and these judges are just saying, well, it's in the books, just like a lot of laws in New York City about, you know, you can't kick a horse in the street, you know, things like that are still on the books, and we're enforcing them as if they're in any way relevant in the modern age. That's what bothers me. They're leaning on ancient, archaic law.
There is a way around, for example, the Comstock Law, if we had a real Supreme Court, and that is it outlaws obscene material, and it defines abortion and any sex-related items as obscene. The court just have to say, well, that was obscene in 1873. It's not obscene now, so the law doesn't apply. That would be the easiest resolution if we had a sane court that was committed to law rather than committed to right-wing and religious ideology.
Go ahead, Raymond.
No, I was just reminded of talking about insane laws. My hobby is photography, pretty much. And it bothered me for years and years and years that in the subway system, they had signs up. Among things that were prohibited was photographs. Now that's an old law that comes back from when they used to use flash powder in the 1900s. Because the sparks from the flash powder would ignite the dust from the train brake shoes.
The steel dust,
like lighting a match in a flower factory. You know, there'd be a chain reaction. And that law was on the books, I know, up until late 60s, if not the early 70s. So that has nothing to do with what we were talking about.
No, but you make a perfect point, Ray, that an archaic law designed for certain times and a certain technology in that case is no longer relevant today, but they sit on the books.
Nobody's paying attention.
Yes.
No. They are paying attention. You understand that these anti-abortion people,
well, they've gone looking for those to make sure they can find them.
They want to use the Comstock Law. They want that to become the law of the land.
Comstock was passed in New York.
No, it's a federal law.
Federal law.
Oh, it's a federal law.
Federal
Okay.
law, they want the Supreme Court to go back and let that.
Yes,
Okay.
I know, I understand
So
that.
they're paying big attention. So it can.
No, they're paying big attention and they're looking for those, of course, because they want to bring those back so they can take us back to the dark ages where you don't think for yourself. Never mind.
On this issue, Raymond, all they want is no abortions in the United States.
I know what they want. I'm just saying, Eric, I'm
not
just
coming out and saying that. They're saying we're upholding the law, and they know they don't want to say no abortions in the United States of America because
yeah. It's sent down laws. Black people can't go in the town.
Talk over each other, Raymond. Let me finish, and then you can talk. What I'm saying is, they do not want any abortions in the country.
I understand this. It's not an argument.
Okay, well, then you understand why they're dredging up 1864, 1870.
I absolutely understand why they are doing it.
And so what it's going to take, my understanding from reading other people when they react to these crazy laws, is they have to elect legislators who will pass laws that will negate these ancient laws.
Yes.
That may be.
That's why we have elections.
My point is, you got state elections, however, where states can pass laws. And so Donald Trump says the state should determine abortions. And you got states like Arizona saying 1864 is how we want our abortions. If you say federal legislation should determine the law of the land, then you got to elect federal legislators that's going to pass laws that will reflect what the American people really want. Alan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it over 60%?
Yes, definitely.
Percent of people who say they think abortion should be legal in this country?
Some Republicans are now actually panicking because the extreme wing of the party is pushing things they don't think Americans can buy. And I hope they're right. And I hope Americans can't buy it and throw these people out of government.
Now, Alan, you talked about the Comstock Law, and we on this program we've just been talking about how it might affect Mifepristone. Think of the collateral damage of all the other, medical devices or that might come under the cover of being obscene, prescriptions or medical aids or whatnot that the Comstock Law could somehow take out of the market. So that bothers me. And Eric and I, and well, everybody here, we had this discussion prior to January 6th when we were talking about how if certain things happen, the election would go back to the states. And most state legislatures, right, Eric, are Republican. And so, if we're going to have the states managing these things, we know where it's going to go in terms of abortion and other things. So, this is a big issue. If we're going to be leaning on ancient law through the legislatures, there's a big problem here, and we all see it.
Something in that's going to scare the MAGA old men, because a lot of them have erectile dysfunction. Too much beer. They're also getting old. Well, erectile dysfunction medication.
Everything's outlawed except Viagra.
That promotes sex. That's obscene.
There you go.
They outlawed that. The men are not going to be able to get their erectile dysfunction.
Can't get your Viagra in the mail anymore. You got a problem. Okay.
You hear that, Trumpers?
They're gonna be dealing Viagra in the streets and around dark corners, man.
Excellent point.
On that Viagra note, what's our next hot topic of interest?
The death of the aid workers, but also the death of the murder of the children.
Oh, we're talking that Hamas Israeli
come on,
messed up situation.
I mean, basically, it was a convoy, correct, by the World Central Kitchen they had, they had just gotten a shipment of aid through
This is April 1st. This
Are
is
you talking
April
about,
1st.
you're talking about the April 1st? Yeah.
This is
Yes.
April 1st.
Yeah.
Yes.
The worst April Fool's event we could
Yeah, really.
have occurred.
Really.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, so it was a shipment of what? 400 tons of food, basically ready to eat food by the World Central Kitchen, delivered to a newly crafted port. And these aid workers were helping to deliver the aid, the food, and in a caravan that was clearly marked World Central Kitchen on the side, on the top, and on the bodies of the workers. So it was clearly identifiable as what it was. But when I look at the pictures that went on the news, you could see that a missile, whatever it was, dropped through the roof of one of the vehicles and killed all the workers.
Yeah.
What explanation there is to that, I have yet to hear a satisfactory one.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
They know. Israel said it was an unfortunate, quote, misidentification. Now, the important thing about those aid workers in the 3-vehicle convoy, they had already dropped off their load. They were on their way back home, leaving the area, leaving, main Gaza. And they were still attacked. After 2 cars were attacked, the survivors got into the 3rd car, thinking they would be safe and maybe they could get away. No. 3rd car was bombed. So, what was it? The 6 foreigners and 1 Palestinian interpreter were killed in that attack. And you're right, the cars were clearly marked. The one that they kept showing on the news, their logo, the WCK logo, expanded the entire top of the car. I mean, it was not a little sign. It was very visible. And if the drone saw the car, the drone saw the identification.
Alan,
Israel claimed that the drone whatever they call them, not allegories, the program misidentified someone in the car. Well, of course they misidentified the car. They don't distinguish between different Palestinians. So they saw a Palestinian in the car, and that's why the drone attacked. But again, this is just indiscriminate murder. Just today, there was a new report. 3 sons of one of the leading negotiators for Hamas were traveling with their children to an Eid family get-together. And Israel blew up the car, claiming that these 3 men were terrorists, and it killed their children. 3 children were murdered. Now, these were non-combatants. Even if they had been Hamas, they were at a family gathering. These were non-combatants, and Israel murdered 3 children to kill them. This is beyond war. This is just murder.
Alan, remind me, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but the internet, I say international, I believe the Geneva Convention was responsible for this, but aren't the rules of engagement that if it's suspected that there's a civilian involved, you stand down from a situation?
That's what I thought, and that the United States had murdered some civilians in Afghanistan.
I didn't say we were blameless.
But it was investigated because
we do it surreptitiously. We don't go out and do it on in front of news cameras.
But the United States then said, no, it was wrong. You're not allowed to attack with missiles and bombs if non-combatants.
Yeah, well,
we've had a problem. The Israelis are doing this indiscriminately in this particular war. We've said that when we talked about the stories about the journalists letting their compatriots know that they're being targeted, even when they're wearing identification stuff on their vests, on their caps, in their cars. They're still being targeted. We had the story back in February where we talked about the families of the journalists that got blown up in their living quarters because the journalists claimed they knew it's my relative. We've been saying, and they've been caused by what? The Committee to Protect Journalists and those other Reporters Without Borders for a serious investigation of the Israeli Defense Force targeting journalists. We've been saying on Media Watch, these people are bombing indiscriminately. They keep coming up with a mantra, we do everything in our power to avoid civilian deaths. That's a load of crock and bullshit. That's a big outright lie. And just like these people are afraid to say that Donald Trump lies, they seem to be afraid to say that the Israeli Defense Forces are lying when they talk about supposedly taking care not to kill civilians. It is crazy. Our government is saying they need to modify their behavior. They need to think more carefully about protecting civilians and letting in more aid. And Israel is saying it's not on us. The UN doesn't have enough resources to feed the people in Gaza. That's a fucking crock of shit. That's a big lie. I'm sick and tired of little Media Watch having to come out and say these SOBs are lying to the world. They are killing people indiscriminately. Alan, that story you just made about, you said their grandparents, their parents, and 3 kids were in that car. I didn't even see that story, but that just reinforces what we've been saying all along. The Palestinians are saying they're suffering genocide. The Palestinians are saying that. The rest of the world is afraid to say that. I believe the Palestinians. The evidence speaks for itself. We're going to get a lot of blowback probably, but
the G word is about the most dangerous thing you can say right now. And you know, you try to hit another explanation of what's going on there, and you hate to use the G word, genocide, but I mean, when you have you know, the world's, I'm lacking other alternatives to explain what's going on. So right. It's and here again, we've said this before. We're not anti-Israel. We are anti-Netanyahu and his policies on running this war. That's what we're against. We're not pro-humanity. There's no anti-Semitism here.
No, there is not.
We are pro-humanity. We're tired of people getting indiscriminately.
Yeah.
Right-wing members of the Netanyahu cabinet had specifically Bezalel Smotrich, they have called for removing the Palestinians from Gaza. Well, an intentional policy of displacing people like that, that is the definition of genocide.
Yeah, really.
All right.
And Eric, you were saying, what was that? What was the thing you were reading about from Donald Trump's son?
Oh, yeah, we mentioned it on the last Media Watch briefly. You remember Jared Kushner and some Trump ally was saying they needed to remove the Palestinians from Gaza because they can develop the Gaza waterfront and make a whole lot of money. That basically what you're saying the government wants to do is what the money-grubbing developers like Kushner wants to do as well. They just came right out and said it. I don't know, maybe it got a couple of headlines and then it just went away. Like nobody really wanted to go down that rabbit hole that was such a big rabbit hole about pure greed and genocidal intent. Move those people out so we can develop the waterfront.
Well, you know what?
Pick it up.
They should let the Palestinians have it. Finance the waterfront for the Palestinians. Give it to them like we did with the Native Americans. We tried to make nice. We gave them casinos.
No, you didn't. You did not give them a damn thing. You stole their land. And
yes.
Their own casinos so they could survive.
And what was the recompense?
History on this program.
Right. Right, and the only thing we did was give them casinos. So we
didn't give them casinos. I keep telling you,
the goddamn beach. Let them have the waterfront.
Rewriting history. We did not give them casinos. They had to work like hell to get those casinos.
Well, yes, they do.
And with that, we have about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left.
Greed and duplicity define Trump MAGA.
Thank you.
This just came out and very recently. Trump, in order to raise money, he has this Truth Social Twitter thing that he created.
2 minutes, you got to speed it up.
Okay, what he did is they went public so they could sell stock, and they were selling the stock at $66 a share. Trump, who had no personal money invested. He was given 78 million shares. Well, that stock plummeted in value from 66 to 36 in the course of a couple of weeks. And experts are saying it's worth about $2 at most. The company never made any money and it's in debt. So what's going on? Trump and his big shots are selling stock to the little guys, the MAGA people who support them. This is Trump defrauding and cheating his own people. And they're all going to lose all their money because they love the demagogue Trump. I mean, this is the greed and duplicity defines the Trump people.
Hey, I couldn't put it any better. I think you've hit the nail on the head. There are about 5 other interesting, serious stories we need to dig into, but we'll have to pick them up on the next show. In the little time we have left, how much time do we have left? 30 seconds?
No. We have about 2 minutes.
Oh, now we have 2 minutes.
No.
Okay. So, real quick, did you see the tag story about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s New York operative consultant, who in it for him came right out and said, oh yeah, I've got to do my best to help Bobby, because if Bobby's in the race, that makes sure we'll torpedo Joe Biden. And so we have to make sure we get Bobby on every ballot in all 50 states. And because we know once that happens, if it's head to head, Biden, Trump, it's going to be hard for Trump to win. But with Bobby on the ballot in every 50 states, Trump's going to win. And hands down, Trump's going to win.
You think Bobby Kennedy Jr. is going to get a lot of votes?
Yeah, I think he will get, because of the Kennedy
because
name.
of the Kennedy name? I don't think so. Look at what he's been doing, man.
Doesn't matter what he's been doing. The Kennedy name. And
apparently, it doesn't matter what you do in politics anymore. You're right.
People don't like either Biden. A lot of people don't like Biden or Trump.
Yeah.
And so that third party candidate with a Kennedy name has the potential to siphon off voters from both sides, but the quote experts think he will siphon more votes from Joe Biden because Kennedy was a Democrat, and there are more Democrats.
He doesn't get on the ballot.
Okay, and with that we have 20 seconds.
Okay, and with that very bad projection, we'll call it a day. This has been Media Watch, folks. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
Alan Singer.
Bob Anthony. Catch up to us on YouTube at Media Watch EVT.
And we'll catch you the next time, folks. Stay safe.